fire transition, quick, and it's easy to do. So stay tuned for that. If you're new here, what's good? My name's Brian. I make music video tutorials here on YouTube. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. It's free. I upload 3 times a week, and we're on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Also, if you could do me a favor real quick and drop a like and a comment, it'd really be appreciated. It really helps push my content to all other people that want to see this, and it only takes a second of your time. If you want to level up your music video editing game, get some cool looks and some presets and packs, and support the channel at the same time, you can go to my website, briandelmata.com. It's 10% off until the end of the week, Sunday. So it's a great time to snag something if you're interested. But yeah, let's get into the video, break down this effect. I want to make it kind of quick because I actually recorded this tutorial last night, but I didn't record the right screen. So this is take 2. Let's try it out. All right, so now that we're in Premiere, I just want to show you the effect real quick. This is the transition. It's super quick. And I think it's a good transition that you can use throughout your music video just to kind of add a little extra texture to it, kind of give a little insight of where the music video is taking place, and it's just a good way to transition between 2 clips besides just like a harsh cut. So that's why I like it. You can see here that here's the transition. It's just a piece of paper ripped in half with a little shake and a drop shadow, and then just 4 quadrants here. It's really quick. It's like, I think it's less than 10 frames. It's like 9 frames long, but it just transitions between this clip and that clip. See if we go ahead and turn that off. This is what the normal transition looks like. It's not bad. It just adds a little bit of extra something to the video. And you know, obviously you don't want every transition to have something special, but every once in a while it's nice to just spice up the video and get the viewer's attention. So I think this does a perfect job at doing that. So all you need for this transition is a picture or 2, basically however many you want to pop up. You could even just do 1. I'd recommend taking some photos during your music video, you know, just snagging some pics kind of behind the scenes or whatever you really want, just to add some extra element that you didn't capture with the video. But if you don't have that, it's fine. You can go ahead to this export frame button. You can hit Control-Shift-E, the shortcut, and then just export it as a PNG or JPEG. It doesn't really matter too much. Click OK and just name it something that you can remember. That's the easiest way to do it if you don't have any photos. And honestly, it works perfectly fine too. I would just choose some that aren't maybe right here, but you could even do between these 2 clips and have it pop up that way. And then once you found the 2 stills or photos you want to use for this transition, just go ahead and open up one of them in Photoshop. And then all you're going to need is some kind of paper textures. I'm going to be using the Ultimate Texture Bundle that I made myself, the V2 of it, the paper rips and folds, and we're just going to select one of these newer ones that I made. Like I said earlier, the whole website's 10% off right now, so it's a good time to snag it. Let's just choose one that we think looks good for our transition. Let's do Rip 7. So once you chose your texture that you want to use, go ahead and drag your image above that layer, turn it to screen. Now you can see it instantly turns it into a paper look. And all you need to do to cut it off so it just looks like it's on a sheet of paper is right click on your image and go to create clipping mask. And that's just going to cut it off so it's on the piece of paper. And then I'm going to control click on both of these, right click on them, and merge the layers. I also just created a new layer, went to the paintbrush and painted it black just so we could see for right now. We'll turn that off before we export it, but it's just a good way to kind of see the edges and everything. And then next, what you want to do is just take the pen tool and make a line kind of creating how it would rip in your eyes. If you have one that's folded, it's easy to just go throughout the fold. I'll show you that in a second, but I want to show you a way to customize it and kind of make it your own little rip. So what I do is I just generally follow where some of these like more rubbed in areas of the paper are. You can see I'm following this white line. Makes it a little bit easier to blend it, but honestly, you don't even really need it. And I'll show you how to make it look better in a second. So go ahead and close that mask, right click and make selection, click OK, and then click Control J and make sure you're selected on the layer of the image. And now you should have one layer, the top layer that you just click Control J on the right hand side, and then the full image. And what we want to do is delete the left hand side from one of them. So control click on the side that just has the right hand side of the paper ripped, click on the full image and click delete. One of them's right hand side and one of them's left hand side. Also, one quick thing, sometimes it has this border here from where you deleted. I just go ahead and use the eraser tool and clean that up real quick. It's honestly not even noticeable in the transition, but I just like to do it to be safe. I'm just going to click one of the sides and separate it a little bit so it looks a little bit more split. And then one thing we can do, you see how it looks a little digital here. It doesn't have like the edges. We can go ahead and customize this piece of paper so it has those edges. It's really simple to do. All you need to do is just add some kind of brush to it, turn your color to white, create a new layer, and I'm going to create a clipping mask over it. We can go ahead and turn off the left hand side for right now. And you can see if I draw on the edges, now it looks like there's the ripped edges. And honestly, when there's like a corner or whatever, I just go in a little deeper. I think that's how it kind of looks in natural paper anyways. And if you're wondering what brush I'm using the Kyle's Drawing Box New Pastel brush from the Mega Pack on Adobe. It's free for all Adobe users. I'll have it linked down in the description below. So go ahead and snag that. It's a really helpful pack, honestly. I use it a lot. And yeah, just go through the edges. You can spend as much or as little time as you want on this. Honestly, it's not even necessary for the transition. I think if you're using it for an Instagram post or something like a still image, it's definitely necessary. But if you're doing it for a transition, it's just a little extra sauce. And I always like, you know, if you're doing an effect, just do it properly. So it doesn't really take much extra time. I just recommend going through and touching it up. And now you can see it has those roughened edges. You can go ahead and change the size of the brush and maybe make it smaller. You can see I can even add these lines in kind of how we wanted. So if you wanted to like scratch it up and make it match the paper a little bit more, you can go ahead and do that throughout. And also if you wanted to make the edges not as sharp, you can go ahead and go to the eraser tool. I like using the Kyle's natural edge eraser and just turning down the size of it a little bit. And then you can see here, if you select on the image layer, not the layer of the paint that you just made, and erase, you can see that it has these roughened up edges now. Again, this is just something you can do to kind of, you know, make it more unique or whatever. It's not even necessary, but I think it does help a little bit. And that's why I really like these in the way that I designed the paper, just to make it, you know, as customizable as possible. There we are. I like the way that looks. And then I'm just going to go ahead and control click both of those layers, the right hand side and the paint, and merge them. And then I'm going to create one new layer, drag it above the left hand side. We can turn off the right hand side for right now. Right click and create clipping mask. And then do the exact same thing with paint here on this side. Just go through and touch up the edges. And again, I think it's just the little things that you add to some transitions that really sell it and make it seem a lot more believable. So just keep that in mind when you're adding this in. And then we can go ahead and merge those two layers. Now we can see we have the left and right hand side, and they're both split. And I think it looks really good. So I'm just gonna go ahead and turn off that black background. We can name one left and name one right, just so when we import it into Premiere, it's a little bit better and easier to understand. Then all you need to do is file, save it as a PSD or a Photoshop file. You can see here I've already made 6 of them, so I'm just gonna name this one the 7th. Just named it picture 7. Click save, click OK. Then once you go back into Premiere, I'm just gonna move this transition up here so it turns it off, and then just double click on the project area, click picture 7 or whatever you just named it as, the Photoshop file, open it up, and then it's gonna ask you to import as merge all layers. And you actually want individual layers, that way you can manipulate the left and right hand side of the image. Go ahead and select individual layers, make sure that both of these are selected and the background layer isn't. Click OK. Then it's going to make a nice folder for you right here, so you can go ahead and see. You double click on that, it's going to have the left and right hand side, and then just drag the left hand side or whatever side you really want in right before the transition. Let's mark where that frame transition's at. Click M on your keyboard, and maybe we want it 4 frames to the left, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And then go back to the middle, and then like 5 frames to the right. This is how long we want the whole transition to take place. We can always tweak this in a little bit, but for right now, I just think it's a general good amount of time. And then I'm just gonna go like 2 frames to the left or something of the middle, drag it so you can see now we have the image pop up. That lasts the whole time. Let's actually just bump over this transition just overall, few amount of frames, so it starts a little bit earlier and then has like 3 frames after it transitions. You can see here, that even serves as a good transition. But what I like to do is right click on both the layers, so highlight them both, go to nest, click OK, then go ahead and add a drop shadow onto it. I think it just adds a little separation between the background and the image. And again, it's just those little things that really make the transition a lot better. I brought the opacity up to 100, the distance down to 0, and then I just like playing with the softness. The wider I bring it, the more softened it looks and less attached to the image. I'm gonna do something like 23, looks good to me. And then another little thing that I like to add on is Sapphire Shake. If you don't have that, you can just keyframe the position of your image. But for right now, just to save time and for the sake of the tutorial, I'm gonna use Sapphire Shake. Again, you could just keyframe the position to shake around a little bit. I'm gonna move the amplitude to 0.5. Go ahead and bring the frequency to something like 3. So it just doesn't shake too much. We can kind of just scrub through and see what that looks like. I personally like how this looks, so I'm gonna leave it like that. You can keyframe the scale, or if you really wanted to add a little bit of more motion blur, you can go and add the transform effect onto it. And it's basically just like the normal scale, but you can make the shutter angle something like 180. And basically what that's gonna do is when you drag 180 or something even higher, when you scale in, it's just gonna have a little bit of motion blur and make it feel a little bit more real. So what we can do is go and keyframe the scale at the beginning to 100, then go to the end of the clip, and depending on how long it is or whatever, you can bump it up to like 105, 110, 115, really just your personal preference. I don't want it to zoom in too much, so I'm going to do 105. Let's render that out and see what it looks like. And now we can see that's looking pretty good. There's a decent amount of shake there, and there's some good movement. I'm actually going to move the position up just a little bit it's a little bit more centered, and re-render that out. And even that right there could be a transition, but I'm gonna add one more clip on just because we have 2 photos anyways. That way it stacks a little bit more and there's just a little bit more to look at for the transition. So to do that, I'm just gonna go and open up that second photo into Photoshop. And then again, just finding one of those textures. We can do maybe, let's do one that's like a little bit more boxy and we can follow these fold lines. So this one looks pretty good in my eyes. Scale it down a little bit. Again, drag that image above, go to screen, right click, create clipping mask, control click on both of them and merge those layers. Then again, I'm gonna make that black background just so we can see what we're doing a little bit more. And just like that, it's into a piece of paper. And now all we need to do is just kind of follow these white lines. This time we don't even have to do any of the erasing, which is nice. Sometimes it's cool to make your own custom ones, and sometimes, you know, you're just in a rush. You want to use the ones that I've already made for you guys. So let's go ahead and make selection, click Control J. And now obviously there's that right hand side and then that full image. So we're gonna go ahead and control click on this thumbnail up here of the post, then go ahead and delete it from the full image. Now you can see of the left and right hand side. And then again, there is that border that I was talking about. So I'm just gonna take the eraser tool real quick, just erase it. And let's turn off the left hand side for right now and split this into top and bottom. I think the more often you make lines, the more realistic it looks, just so it has a little bit of jaggedness to it. It honestly doesn't take much time at all. Go ahead and then right click, make selection, and then you're gonna make sure you're selected on that right hand side. Duplicate it, control click on the thumbnail, and then delete it from the other one. So now we have the right hand side top and bottom. So let's go ahead and do that erase thing one last time over here. You don't want it to be showing in the transition. Not that you can even really notice it. It's just one thing that I just do just to make it look a little bit better. And we can name this one right top, right spot. And then let's separate the left hand side top and bottom. Again, just going ahead and splitting it into halves. Make selection, Control J, control click on that thumbnail, and then delete. And now we can see, since we have those lines already made for us, we don't really need to go through and erase. If you wanted to touch it up, you could do that, but I'm not going to, at least for the sake of the tutorial. So let's name this one left top and left spot. Go ahead and turn on all those layers besides that background layer. Again, go ahead, file, save it as a PSD. Let's name it picture 8. Then open it up. Make sure to do that individual layers thing and make sure all your layers are selected. Click OK. Let's find the spot where second image pops up, and let's go like 1 or 2 frames to the right of that. And I wanted to start off with Post Malone's head showing, so let's do that. Then we could go 2 frames, have the second half pop, and then maybe 1 frame, since this is a little bit less important because it's not really revealing any more info. Do 1 frame and then 1 frame again. There you can see we have it pop up. Go ahead and nest those 2. And then the nice thing about this is, if you want, you can just copy basically everything from that other nested sequence you have and then just paste it on, and it's pretty much done. The only thing you're gonna really need to do is re-keyframe the scale. So let's start it off at 100 and then go to the end and make it 105. Then there's the transition. I kind of want it to last a little bit longer, so what I'm gonna do is move it 2 frames to the left, and then if you just double click into the nested sequences, if you want to make them longer, you can drag this out for however long you want, because it's actually not going to change the length of the nested sequence. All you need to do now is just go 2 frames to the right, and now you can see you can drag it as long as you had in that nested sequence. But we're just going to go 2 frames, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the other nested sequence. So just highlight all of those and drag them out. Now we can see the transition lasts just a little bit longer. I think it looks better that way. So you can see this time we didn't separate the images, so all the pieces of paper go back together. And if you want that, that's great. But if you don't want it, you can go ahead and just actually do it in Premiere. So you can see I'm just moving the position of all these. You can have some of them overlap each other, some of them do whatever. So let's actually have this overlap right here, there. And you can even keyframe the positions of them to maybe like come together or separate throughout the whole thing. But for right now, I think I like how it looks like this. So let's go ahead and close that nested sequence, re-render it out. Now we can see the images are a little separated. I actually want to move that original top one down just a little bit so there's not as much of a gap. It's all personal preference from now, so just do whatever you think looks cool. And now, since you have these effects already put on in the nested sequence, you can see how it's easy to replicate this effect throughout your music video. Obviously, don't go too crazy doing it, but I think it is a good transition when you don't really have anything else to do. And then I would just recommend adding some sound effects, just because I think it makes the transition complete, and kind of, I think sound design is really undervalued in music videos. Like I said, you can do this throughout the music video. You can see that I've created a bunch of different ones here, kind of practicing and messing around. And each time you do it, it gets easier. So, you know, the first time you do it might be a little slow, but now I can make one of these transitions if I'm not recording a tutorial, probably in about a minute or two. And you can see all the different ones I have. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. With the pack, I just kind of designed it so you can use it as many ways as possible. So I'm interested to see what you guys come up with. If you decide to do this transition, DM it to me on Instagram. I'll check it out for sure. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for you guys in this one. If you made it all the way to the end, like always, I do appreciate you. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. If you wanted to snag the V2 or any other product off my website, it's 10% off until Sunday, so it's a great time to do that. Follow me on all social medias. I'll have them linked down below. Instagram, Twitter. You can even join the Discord. We have a cool community on there. I was just editing in the calls and stuff. Yeah, hop in. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you guys in this one. Peace.